Of our tribes, we were kind people. We took these people in, basically, because they would have died without us. And so you say, you give a man some corn and he eats for a day. You teach a man how to plant corn and he steals your land and kills you.
Dark. Dark, Gray Wolf.
And welcome to the Acid for Squares podcast. I'm your host, Tanya Dahl.
And I'm your other host, Cody Blue. And we have a special episode of Acid for Squares for Native American Heritage Month, but especially Thanksgiving week. And with us, we have two Indigenous elders, our dear friends, Gray Wolf and Panther. Thank you both for being here to talk about this very misunderstood quote-unquote holiday that we're going to get to the bottom of the real origins of. So thank you both for being here. We love you two so much, and we've missed you both. We appreciate you being here.
It's an honor to be here.
So I'm gonna give a little introduction to the two of you for anyone that don't know these two legends. So, all right, Panther is of the Cherokee and the Muskogee tribes. He is a spiritual advisor, or was a spiritual advisor for the American Indian movement. He was also on the Elders Council of the American Indian movement, and just our dear friend. And then we got our brother Gray Wolf. All right, so Gray Wolf is an elder of the Yo-Em tribe. Gray Wolf was on the Grand Governing Council of the American Indian movement. He is a activist and musician. He's a grandfather, a father, a great-grandfather. And I personally know Gray Wolf as well as Panther from Standing Rock. Gray Wolf, and the American Indian movement took me and my team and my family to Standing Rock and introduced me my first tear gassing, which was a grand old time. Thank you for that. But what I could say about Gray Wolf is, Indigenous tribes, there's so many of them, they don't necessarily have a central figure in activism like Malcolm X or Martin Luther King. And when I first was introduced to fighting for Indigenous rights, I quickly found out that Gray Wolf is that figure. He is that person, and that's how I know you and respect you, and so many people respect you. And, your partner in crime and activism is Panther. So two legends. So can you start us off by explaining the true story of Thanksgiving?
Well, it isn't what we are taught in school, because I went to public school, and I was taught that this was some kind of wonderful thing that happened between the tribes and the first, or the pilgrims, I guess. Everything, as I grew up and started learning the truth, I was surprised that everything I was taught was a lie, almost everything. And that was upsetting to me. So the more I looked into it, the more the more angry I got. There's a thing called manufactured history. What manufactured history is history that is made up to try to excuse genocide and the theft of indigenous land. So this manufactured history is what is taught today in schools. We are told that in order to not repeat history, you should learn history. That way you don't repeat it. And how can you not repeat it if you don't learn the truth? If you learn this manufactured history, which is taught today in so many schools, and which is something I fight against. But
right.
I don't understand. One of the things that got me going in the first place was, why do the colonizers, I'll use that term because that's a better term than the term I usually use, which is Euro invader, why do they pick only one day to give thanks to Creator for everything we get? They pick one day. I give thanks every day, and so do most Native Indigenous people. They give thanks every day. So that was one of the things that started me off on this journey against Thanksgiving and the lies.
Well, can you tell us, so so eloquently brought up, that great term, manufactured history, and we all know, right? We all went to public school. In America, it's the colonials and the indigenous people come together for this great feast, right? Mm-hmm.
Sat down as friends.
Yeah, so and y'all dress up and all this pageantry, but what I found out, and or what we found out in our fight for Indigenous rights and Indigenous wisdoms, is that Thanksgiving is rooted in the Green Corn Massacre. Is this true?
Right.
Can you speak and teach us a little bit about the events of the Green Corn Massacre and how they birthed what we know as Thanksgiving today?
What happened was that the pilgrims or colonizers were upset because they were always fearful of the tribes. They didn't trust the tribes because the tribes, they knew eventually would have enough of this and say, we want you out of here. And it's a funny thing because in Thanksgiving, what do you eat at Thanksgiving? You eat a turkey from here. You eat corn from here. You eat pumpkins from here. You eat wild rice from here. Everything that they ate was from here. They brought nothing to the meal, to this. They brought nothing. They took everything. And I even make jokes. I said, you teach, you give our tribes, we were kind people. We took these people in, basically, because they would have died without us. And so you say, you teach a man, you give a man some corn and he eats for a day. You teach a man how to plant corn and he steals your land and kills you.
Dark. Dark, Gray Wolf.
But,
Dark.
and those are the things that I saw, and the more I know, people say, your sense of humor is really dark. And I said, what has happened to my people is dark. And so this is how I deal with it, with a little bit of, humor, because I can't sit around crying about it. So I'd rather speak out about it.
Well, so tell us specifically, if you could tell our listeners, because we know about exactly the events of the Green Corn Massacre, but can you speak to the actual events? I believe 300 people were massacred.
No,
in the middle
more
of the
like
night.
700
700?
Yeah.
Whoa.
It depends on who you want to listen to, because we do understand that the victor writes the history, not the, and so a lot of, when we're allowed to write our own history, then it's totally different than from the history we're taught, because we see it from a different perspective. It's an example. It would be the very famous man, holy man, Goyatle, who everybody knows as Geronimo. And this man, he was very feared by the U.S. government. And what was he doing? To our people, he's a hero because he was fighting for his people, his land. He was defending his way of life, and that you call that a hero. And so we should have a different perspective on how we see things. You see, and so we were fighting to an invasion. There's no other way to put it. There was an invasion of our land, of our people, of our traditions, and we fought back, and the colonizers were fearful of that. So they devised this plan to eradicate an entire tribe, a genocide. They have these things called manifest destiny, and they're told, God told you that this is your land. But baloney, it's our land. We were here, and we were moved out, and this is what happened. Because of all the suspicion between the tribes and the colonizers thought, well, we need to get rid of them before they get rid of us. And this is what led to this massacre of 700 Pequods. Men, women, and children, we have to understand. I mean, it wasn't just the warriors. It was everybody pretty much of the tribe.
So I want to know if this is true. So what I've heard is that, the Green Corn Festival is a day where you forgive everyone, right? The Green Corn Festival, whatever it is, you say, I'm sorry, and you start over again.
A day of atonement.
A day of atonement, yeah. And then, so the massacre that happened was during the Green Corn Festival,
right.
the first one, and they ended up calling it Thanksgiving when they killed and murdered all of these indigenous people. And it was anyone who was over the age of 14, women and children were put into slavery and sold, and then the rest were murdered. And then every time this happened in other states, they would call it Thanksgiving. And then Abraham Lincoln was literally the one that made Thanksgiving a national holiday.
Wow.
Yes, and he's also responsible for the death of 38 Dakota men in the largest mass hanging in U.S. history, the largest execution at one time of 38 innocent Dakota men. So again, there is the perspective. To us, while he's supposedly freeing the slaves, which he actually didn't do, he's killing our people and continuing the genocide that was started by Columbus.
It's sort of this sick, twisted, ironic metaphor to take this indigenous holiday and literally colonize and rebrand the holiday and claim it as your own.
For a massacre that was happening at that time of killing all these innocent people. It's just like so horrifying.
Has there ever been any efforts to atone around this holiday or, give back, this holiday? Any efforts whatsoever or anything be done? Is there anything you think that could be done to further educate people around this so they maybe perhaps honor this holiday and this day in a new light as opposed to it being just a day for football and stuffing your face and falling asleep in the middle early?
So yes, every once in a while you get an apology, you get this, you get that. I don't want an apology. Give us the land back. Right. Give us what you stole. Give us what you committed genocide for. And that would an apology without action is just empty rhetoric. And we hear a lot of that. I'm done with that.
Yeah.
I love this idea, though, of the Green Corn Festival. The idea of having a day where you apologize and atone and just like, okay, we're all people. We're all figuring this out together. Like, let's start anew. That, to me, sounds like the most incredible piece of wisdom that we could use in the world right now that could actually become like an actual holiday or something to be able to do this and learn from the Native people, because this time there's so much turmoil in the world right now, and if only we could take that wisdom and bring it into society now.
Yeah,
but you have to understand that there was so much that our people could have given to the world, and yet nobody bothered to learn from us. We were just an inconvenience. People don't even understand. 1850, state of California, it was still legal to hunt Native people, indigenous people. The governor wrote that he would not be happy in 1850. The governor of California wrote he would not be happy till every red devil was wiped off the face of the earth. And see, we have to understand we were not even considered people. We were a nuisance that had to be dealt with. Because according to these people, God gave them this land, even though it was ours. And that's another misconception, because people say, well, how can you say you own the land when indigenous people say the land cannot be owned? It cannot be owned individually. It can be owned collectively, and that's what tribes do. Even to this day, we do not own the land we live on. We are just here for a short time, and we're gone. And so how can you own something, that belongs to everybody? A lot of times people... not to get into politics, but, somebody says to me, who are you going to vote for, this and that? I said, I'm not voting for anybody, because it's very difficult to participate in a system of government that is so devastating to our people, to people in general, And so I fight against the system, not only the candidates, but the system that gives us candidates that are, horrible candidates, if you actually look at it, in the richest country in the world. So I fight the system, not so much and the system that we are under right now is what keeps indigenous people down and forces them into prisons and forces them into all this other stuff, poverty and hunger, which should not exist, and never existed before. the invasion of the Europeans.
We're the forgotten people. We're called the forgotten people because there are so many issues that are going on that you never hear about. Missing and murdered indigenous women, men, and children, where they disappear, their bodies are not found, or they find them in a field somewhere. Nothing is done about it. Nobody knows about it. They'll do a little blurb here and there. Nobody knows our history, and nobody knows that what's happening in the present. It hasn't stopped. You know, the people on the reservations aren't living happily ever after and running in slow motion with the deer and the buffalo. These people are starving. They're freezing. You know, they're like a third world. It's awful. We have friends on Navajo Nation that don't have drinking water. They have to drive 90 miles to get a tank to come back to fill up to have water. Something simple. They don't have electricity.
So this is something that I would love for you guys to dive in a little bit deeper on, because I don't think a lot of people understand this. That when they think, oh, they are given reservations and they have this land and all this stuff, people don't understand the poverty level that is on these reservations and what is actually going on there. Can you speak to a little bit more? I know you just mentioned, but can you speak a little bit more about this?
We have elders that are freezing to death because they don't have heat.
About 20, I think we're out to our 24th year with the Lakota Plains propane company. And we partnered with them to provide propane for the tribes, for the Pine Ridge Reservation, because about 24 years ago, I was down at the Pine Ridge Reservation, and I saw the poverty, I saw the cold. People don't understand the bitter cold. It's like if you spit, it will freeze before it hits the ground. That's how cold it is. And we have people who are living under these conditions, and if they run out of money, which is very rare to have money on a reservation, they cannot pay the propane bill. So a friend of mine, Thunderwolf, and myself set up we had a concert. That was the first thing. We decided to have a concert and take the money and pay propane bills for people who couldn't pay it. But that became very difficult to do, so we started getting donations. We started publicizing this, and now we get a lot of donations. Every single penny goes to the propane company, and they hold it for us. And when they have someone who cannot pay their bill, they call us, and we okay the transfer of funds to pay their bill. Because the first year, an elder, they went to go check on an elder, found her frozen to death. That was a horrible thing in the richest country in the world.
What state was this in? Do you know?
South Dakota, Pine Ridge Reservation. The following year, we were trying to set this whole thing up when a mother sent her kids off to relatives in warmer climates, and she was going to try to stay through the winter. And they checked up on her, and she was found frozen to death. So after that, I was so angry. I said, well, we have to do this. And like I said, Thunderwolf and I got together. We had our first concert, and it was successful. And we've been doing this for 24 years. And we pay the bill for as many families as we can, as much fund as comes in. I have never received a penny. Money's come out of my pocket to pay the entertainers, to pay the venue, to pay all this stuff. Comes out of my pocket and out of Thunderwolf's pocket because we are so angry at how the government treats our people. But that's just one example. During the pandemic, I made 35 trips to Navajo Nation taking medical supplies, emergency medical supplies. And then I got a call from Zuni Pueblo. They said we could use some. I went to Zuni Pueblo. But you can sit here and look at a problem and talk about it and cry about it, or you can get up and do something about it.
Tell them about who did a concert for the fund.
Oh, so just by coincidence, I hear that there's a comedian named Ralphie May, who is a pretty well-known comedian, and he cracked a bad joke about Indians, and I was not happy. So I tracked him down, and I finally got a hold of him, and I got a hold of his publicist, actually, and his publicist said, did you write that letter to Ralphie May about what's going on the reservations? I said, yes, I did. She says, Ralphie wants to speak to you. And
wow.
he actually called me. He set up a time. I remember to this day, 1 o'clock, and I'm waiting. I wasn't even waiting because I just said, he's not going to call. 1 o'clock, I get the phone call. He says, first of all, he says, I want to apologize for the joke. He said, I wasn't aware of the conditions on the reservation. Your letter really opened my eyes. He said, what is it that you want? Well, American Indian Movement was very unhappy, and they had called me and said, if you can get hold of this guy, you tell him that he has to cancel his show in Minnesota. He has to come to the AIM office and speak to us directly, and he has to do a free concert for AIM. And he said, Ralphie May goes, yes, yes, and yes. And he did all of them. And
Wow,
I said that
good
was
for
the
him.
first time I've ever seen a comedian of his stature actually do that, apologize and try to fix things. So then he says to me, he says, Gray Wolf, what can I do for you? And I said, well, I run the propane fund for the Pine Ridge Reservation. And he says, I'm in. Then he says, here's what I'll do. I will rent out the Hollywood Improv. I will bring in the comedians, which he brought in Margaret Cho, Dane Cook, and I can't remember the other very high-class comedians. And he says, we will do the show, and every penny that comes through that door, I will match. And he did all that. And he was a
Yes.
great
Good for
man.
him.
And we, but that's when people understand the severity of the situation, every once in a while, somebody will actually get up and do something. And to this day, I will remember Ralphie May. He passed away just a short time ago. And we were planning the next concert. He was going to do this every year.
Wow. Oh my God. Rest in peace, Ralphie.
I've been really fortunate because I meet a lot of people, and it's never planned. I met Russell James, the photographer for Victoria's Secret, by accident. He wanted me to do something for him. I said, sure. And we became really good friends. He actually paid to fly me out to New York to speak to the Clinton Global Initiative. And one of the things that surprised everybody, and I got in a little argument with a couple of people. Not really argument. I was just being myself. And the head of the global
It was an argument.
the head of the Clinton Global Initiative came to me and was talking to me about how the reservations are. I told him, I said, you're in Haiti building a hotel. I guess that's going to employ people and do something after the big earthquake. I said, but do you understand that in North America, the 5 poorest places in North America, 3 of them are reservations? How do you deal with that? And he looks at me, and Russell was standing there because he had brought us together, and he looks at me. He says, "I had no idea." And Russell James says, "That's the problem. You have no idea." And that's just the way it is. A lot of people don't understand the poverty on the reservations, the situation that we've been put in.
You're saying so much fascinating stuff. One of the things you said was there was so much that our people have to offer the world that has been ignored and blighted out. And you also are speaking of, when it comes to the Green Corn Massacre, techniques of genocide and oppression and control that were enforced by the colonizers on the indigenous people of North America and many other parts of the world.
All over. It's happening today in Brazil, the Amazon. It's happening, we only hear about what's popular, but when a starving child in Sudan dies, we don't care, see? Yeah. And that's what's annoying, is those children are just as valuable as the children here. But we don't feel that way. We feel like they're that's their problem. Yeah. No, it's our problem, because there should be no poverty. There should be no hunger or starvation.
Yeah, we're all connected.
I mean, also, our government's not doing a great job. I mean, my friend is a kindergarten teacher in a area that has a lot of people under the poverty line, and during COVID and stuff, she was concerned that the kids weren't going to have food to eat. Yeah. And they're like, because they get all their food at school. And they're like, what happens when they don't go to school? They don't have money at home.
Absolutely.
But that's horrible. Like, how is this a thing?
When more money is going to fund foreign wars
Yes.
than all the money in the rest of the budget to do everything else.
There was this thing called the 60 Scoop, where indigenous children were picked up and taken to residential schools. That's a whole different issue. You know, the residential schools were horrible, where we were forced to not speak our language, to not follow our traditions. Cody brought this up. Just recently, I say recently because our people have been here for thousands of years. Recently, in the 30s, they decided that some of our ceremonies were okay to do. We were given, it was called the Freedom, in 1978, the Freedom of Religion Act was passed. 1978, you know, we've been here for thousands of years. And in 1978, we are given permission to do what we have done for thousands of years. It's ridiculous.
Makes no sense.
Wow.
We have a Navajo friend of ours who was part of all of that mess, and she was caught speaking her language, Navajo, and she had to scrub down the bathrooms with a toothbrush.
What?
Yes. We know
there's
someone, you know, you hear about in our history, but we know someone.
So, look, you two are a perfect dichotomy between, you know, you say the warrior and the healer, and, you know, the spiritual, and then also what you're talking about with like the physical, the action. And it's interesting to hear you speak about it, Gray Wolf. And I think a lot, my father's very like that, like you, and I was raised that way. And then I came to the spiritual side of things, and I'm still trying to find harmony and balance between the two. And I think a lot of warriors, you know, when they hear like sort of the spiritual or the, you know, they feel like it can kind of bother them. You know, sometimes it can be, you know, because they're like, we need action. And it's interesting. We have a lot of scientists on talking about certain scientific technologies that measure the effects of prayer and measure the effects of healing and say, well, there is actual positivity to it. But at the same time, as much as we want to be conscious and more peaceful and spiritual people, more have a more conscious perspective on the world, we need to take action. And we started this conversation talking about our violent history and what has happened to your people, and, you know, and what we can do to atone for the past and to heal the past and to take action that is in alignment and with healing the past and changing these patterns that we've created that are seemingly ignoring, you know, our violent history. Can we end this by speaking to our listeners and letting them know what they can do this Thanksgiving week if they feel called to take action that can help the indigenous people of their community, of their country? What can people do today if they want to use this holiday as an invitation to give back to indigenous people all around the world?
One thing, if I can add, to remind him what he does every Thanksgiving on the internet, and it's fantastic, is the video of...
Oh, my God.
He puts it on. It is hysterical.
Adam's family values.
And it's worth watching.
Scene,
he does it every Thanksgiving.
Okay.
The scene with Wednesday goes crazy because she's playing Pocahontas in this play.
Yes.
And she goes nuts. And I put that up every Thanksgiving. Oh, my God.
And she talks about, and they will have
hysterical.
casinos. She does the whole thing and ties up the little white girl and the whole thing.
Oh, my God.
He puts that every Thanksgiving, and I think
And
that
he
is...
says, for all this, you shall die. I'm just like rolling on the floor.
So that's his gift to Thanksgiving on Thanksgiving Day. He puts that on there, and people go crazy.
I haven't seen that movie in so long. I
Okay,
forgot.
Oh, you have
so
to watch
everybody
it.
out there should go post that scene on all social media
I
platforms.
do it constantly.
Adam's
Yes.
family values.
And the
Yes,
and
insane.
the John Stewart quote that he says he celebrates Thanksgiving in a very traditional way. He invites all his neighbors for a big feast. Then he kills them and steals their land. And I think, you know, I put that on Facebook and I got suspended. And I said, wait a minute, you know, John Stewart said it, not me.
Yeah, I think the Wednesday is the better one, but it will educate people. As silly as it sounds, you know, it's just like, it's all true.
Oh my God.
People sometimes learn better through comedy.
Shooting
honestly.
arrows, and she's narrating
Yeah.
the whole thing, and it's just like...
Yeah. Okay. So everybody needs to post that video.
Yes.
And is there anything practically that people can do if they
Well,
want to?
there's the propane fund.
Okay.
Yes.
You go to very simple, www.bicona.com, bicona.com, and that is where the propane fund is. And right now is the worst because the freezing temperatures were all the way till March, and the fund is low, and we need to get enough money to make sure that nobody else freezes to death.
Okay.
So there's the propane fund, and we should be remind people to give thanks every single day for what I don't believe in Mother's Day. I don't believe in Father's Day. Every day we should honor our mother. Every day we should honor our father. Every day we should give thanks to Creator for everything He's given us, not just one day a year.
Yep.
That's something I've learned. It took years, and I was sitting on my front porch and realized I've imagined this, and I have it, and I had never once stopped to say thank you. And that's something I do every day and every night. We need to do that. The simplest of things, the shower. Oh my God! Thank you for the shower. I mean, it seems foolish, but we go from this to the next, to the next, to the next, and we don't say thank you for this and thank you for this, and remind ourselves just how blessed we are. We have things that a lot of people don't have.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So to just take it and not tell the Creator, thank you for giving me this.
Absolutely. Well said. Look, we love y'all.
Yeah, you guys, thank you for being on today.
Who are you again?
It's me, Cody.
Oh, Cody.
I appreciate how much you've supported our last show, Waking Underground, and anyone who's fans of the last show. They are the two elders that open and give the disclaimer to everyone.
Oh, yeah, and you should go and listen to the episode where Gray Wolf and Alfred, they talk about Standing Rock with Cody. It's really incredible.
It's called Healing Law.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful episode. The both of you are on it. So, all right, you two legends, never change. Thank you all. Everyone have a happy holiday week. A conscious holiday week. Discuss all of this with your friends and family.
And go donate to the propane fund.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
It would be helpful. If everybody just sent a little bit of money, it would be a huge help and keep people
absolutely.
from freezing to death.
Absolutely.
So
Thank you.
please.
And smile at each other when you pass each other, even if you don't know who it is, please.
Don't even get me started on that. So in law, right, we live in
as you
LA.
get started on it.
We live in LA, and I refuse to live in a world where I will just walk past humans and pretend that they don't exist, and do that thing where you're just alone walking down a sidewalk
look
and you're
the
just
other way.
pretending you're
That's
not
so
seeing each other.
weird.
I see you, bro. You see me too. Don't pretend like I'm not here. So I say hello to everyone who
I
passes.
just
look
nod
in
and
the eye.
smile.
Oh, I say hello. Most people ignore me in LA.
Some people get scared.
Some people get scared. I'll be like, "Hello, how are you?" And they'll be like, "Ha!"
Well, that's why I just nod and smile, and sometimes because I'm gonna live.
Okay, I get that. That makes sense. I like to live dangerously. I like to be over the top with my acts of love.
That way, if they don't understand English or whatever, they understand a smile and a nod.
Okay, I can pull mine down. All right, everybody. This has been the Acid for Squares podcast. Thank you for joining us. Be well.